Welcome to a very special championship edition of NBL today. We have just finished Game 5 in the series. Only moments ago, Liam Santamaria, the Sydney Kings going back-to-back.
What an unbelievable series decider that was. Man, just the ebbs and the flows, punch and counter-punch, all series long, but in that game in particular. And the Kings, man, you've just got to tip your hat to them. As the champions, of course, but what we saw in that game, down double digits in the first, 7 in the fourth. They close it out on an 18-3 run to win the title. Amazing.
That run towards the end, we'll talk about the first quarter in a moment, but at one stage it was 14-0, the run that they were on. In the fourth quarter, back end of the game, that's championship winning stuff.
Yeah, and their big players stood up in those big moments, didn't they? Walton Jr. in that second half was epic. Yeah. And Xavier Cooks had two defining plays. Right here, the offensive rebound putback, he just willed himself to that ball. Nobody else was getting that ball in that moment. And then down the other end, the block on Derrick Walton. They needed the three, the breakers. They went for the two. He was above the square when he blocked that, Xavier Cook. I can't wait to see a replay. So he had some massive moments. The block from Jalen Galloway on the three-point attempt in that second half was massive. And this crowd, I mean, at one point it threatened to get nasty, where the water bottle got thrown on the court, and I thought, if this went the other way, this atmosphere could have got crazy. In the end, it was just joyous, and it was an eruption of championship celebrations.
What about the first quarter? Let's go back to the start of the game for those who missed it. Double-digit lead at quarter time. New Zealand settled into the game straight away.
Yeah, they completely owned the first quarter, and watching it, I thought they're going to win the championship.
Yeah.
The way they dominated that first quarter, they completely outplayed them in that opening term. And then they just couldn't knock it down in the second. I don't think the Kings really turned the tables in that second quarter in the way that they played. I just think the Breakers just missed shots. They had open looks in that second quarter that they couldn't knock down. And as a result, what was it, a 1-point game at halftime? And then, man, it was just an arm wrestle in that third quarter, all tied up with a quarter to play. And we spoke before about what happened in the fourth.
Big plays at big moments, Liam. Was there anything that stood out for you as the defining play or defining moment of this Game 5?
Yeah, for me it was that Xavier Cooks offensive rebound. I mean, Derrick Walton Jr. right here, this spot right here, hit a couple of big pull-up jumpers late. And the way he ticked the scoreboard over was huge. But that offensive rebound was the defining moment for me because it was the guy, the MVP, who hadn't had a great series, who told us just before he'd been outplayed by Jarrell Brantley. But in that moment, he was just doing what it took to get over the line and win the title, and that was the play I think I'll remember down the track.
Let's talk about Angus Glover while we're on the Sydney Kings. We mentioned this in commentary. Australian sport is littered with great stories of athletes coming back and playing under severe injury. And I'm talking Dermot Brerett in the 1989 AFL Grand Final. Rick McCosker coming back out to bat at the MCG with a broken jaw. NRL stories left, right and centre. The list goes on. In Australian basketball, Angus Glover coming back out with what I'm sure we'll learn later is broken ribs or a sternum issue. Coming back out where he couldn't lift his arm above his shoulder, knocking down threes, making plays defensively.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that as long as I live.
Yeah, no, you're right. Drury picked it up at halftime during the warm-ups, didn't he? He said there's something not right with Angus Glover. Then he didn't come back on the floor till really late. And then Rucker was given the report that, hey, he's no good. When he came back in, they were down. They looked almost out. And he was hunched over and he couldn't straighten up. And this is a guy, we spoke about it, everyone knows, right? The 3 knee reconstructions. 1 hamstring, 2 hamstrings, his dad's hamstring in his knee. He was told by the surgeon at that time, coming back from the 3rd surgery, you're better off retiring. It's better that you don't play basketball anymore. So for him to come out, come back to the level that he's been in, and then in this moment show that courage again in a big way to make those plays, the miss from the corner, and then the follow-up dunk, and then the triple, huge plays from a really courageous young man.
So that's back-to-back now for the Sydney Kings. They have won it 3 times before. They have the opportunity now to do it again. Where does this Sydney team rank for you, I guess, now going back-to-back in when we talk about the great teams of the last 10, 12, 15 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's up there, isn't it? I mean, those 2 teams, the Kings under Gorgian, the Breakers under Lamanis, they are the the standard because they're the only teams to three-peat. But going back-to-back's really, really hard to do. And under Chase Buford, these guys have got that done. So really, really impressive. And just as an organisation, what they've done. In building, I mean, we see the Hoops Capital logos around the court. Paul Smith tattooed it on his arm, and everybody in Victoria laughed at him. Everyone in Western Australia laughed at him and said, mate, you're talking baloney. Well, they're building a dynasty here in Sydney. They're packing out this enormous arena, setting records and winning championships.
Record crowd tonight, highest NBL attendance in history. Remarkable night. As you can probably tell, we haven't got much voice left. What we do have left, let's talk about the New Zealand Breakers. They almost pulled off the ultimate Cinderella story. Their last 2 years has been well spoken about. We understand. In fact, no, we will never understand the hardship of what they went through.
Yeah.
They were amazing tonight. They've been amazing all season long.
Yeah, they were. They will feel like they let that championship slip through their fingers. That'll be the hardest bit for them to come to terms with. They'll look back on Game 2 and think, man, that was an opportunity missed. But they'll look back on this Game 5 and how at various times throughout that game they were in control. They were probably a bucket or two every now and then from really separating themselves out and holding on. I mean, when they were up 12 and Liafa had the three-point attempt right here in the first half, that could have been a backbreaker. The Brantley jump hook that he missed late when they were up 7. So they'll think about that. Their fans will be awfully proud of them. All the neutral supporters recognise how much of a successful season it was for them. But those guys in that locker room, Modi Mayor, Matt Walsh, they will be feeling really hollow right now.
Well, that's all for us here on NBL today, our special championship edition. As you can see just behind us, the Kings have cut down the net. Their championship celebrations are going to go long into the night and probably the next day. And if they do it, probably the next day after that as well, if they do the whole thing properly. Liam, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you again this season.
Thanks, man. It's been awesome. Great job calling the championship series and emceeing the post-game celebrations. You did a tremendous job as well.
I think we might have a celebration of our own just quietly. Thanks so much for joining us daily on NBL Today over the playoff series. The numbers have been absolutely incredible. Your support means the world to us, but NBL Today won't be stopping. We'll take a break for the remainder of the week. We are back on Monday because you guessed it, while the play on the court has finished, all the stuff off the court is about to hot up. Free agency is just around the corner. Keep your eyes on NBL Today, the dotted line, the marketplace. We've got you covered for the free agency period.